how do you draw that conclusion?
He accused Barack Obama of not having been born in America and lying about his birth certificate.
So how's that racist?
Birtherism is racist because Barack Obama is well, you can't. I mean, you can talk over me if you want, Stephen. But okay, no, you crack on.
There have been previous presidents that have actually been white that have also not been accused of being born in America. So was that also racist?
No, of course it wouldn't.
In the clips you're about to see, British radio host James O'Brien does exactly that. He invites callers who support Donald Trump to explain why they believe what they believe. And what follows is remarkable, because one after another these callers walk in sounding confident, certain, and completely convinced they're about to win the argument. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
I'm actually a fan of Trump, and I think there's a lot of stuff in the media which are lies.
Go on.
I don't know yourself, you're obviously anti-Trump.
No, go on. What are the lies that you're unhappy about?
Well, no, I just think you even said this morning, you said it's okay for him, what is it, the quote you used, it's okay to be racist again?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you draw that conclusion?
He accused Barack Obama of not having been born in America and lying about his birth certificate.
So how's that racist?
Birtherism is racist because Barack Obama is well, you can't. I mean, you can talk over me if you want, Stephen. But okay, no, you crack on. There have been
previous presidents that have actually been white that have also not been accused of being born in America. So was that also racist?
No, of course it wouldn't be racist. Who was that, by the way?
I think a president from 1880. It goes back over
No, come on. You're on national
previous
radio. You've got your ducks in a row. Tell me about the last time an American president was accused of not being born in America.
I've forgotten the names. But
don't be silly. Don't tease me. Of course you haven't forgotten the name. You wouldn't come on the radio and say something and then immediately fall apart in response to the first question you're asked.
It's not falling apart.
Okay, so let's go back to the lies that have been told about Donald Trump. Which one would you reach for first?
Well, the one that you just said, it's okay for the racist to come out.
Well, we've just demonstrated he's very popular with racists, Stephen. I think we can all agree on that.
Well, he's not popular with racists.
So it wasn't white nationalists that invaded the Capitol last week, then. Steve Bannon, his key advisor. Steve Bannon, his key advisor during the presidential campaign, who's now been pardoned for ripping off Trump supporters. He didn't say you should wear the accusation of racism like a badge of honor.
Well, that's his quote. I mean, if that's what he's saying. But that you can't just say then that everyone that marched on the Capitol is racist.
I didn't. I said they were white nationalists.
And just like that, the call is over. The moment the questions start getting specific, the moment the caller is asked to actually support the claims he walked in so confidently, making the entire conversation collapses. No explanation, no evidence, no attempt to defend the argument. He simply hangs up. Think about that for a second. This caller entered the conversation convinced that the media had been lying about Donald Trump. He sounded certain, confident, even a little dismissive of the idea that his views could be challenged. But when James O'Brien asked him to do one very basic thing, name a specific example and defend it, suddenly the certainty vanished. And that moment is actually more revealing than anything the caller said, because it highlights a pattern that shows up again and again in these conversations. Strong opinions, bold claims, absolute certainty. But when those claims are examined even slightly, when someone asks for details, examples, or evidence, the argument starts to crumble. Instead of engaging with the questions, some callers change the subject, others become defensive. And occasionally, like we just saw, they simply disappear from the conversation entirely. Now, of course, one awkward call could just be a bad moment. But what makes this segment interesting is what happens next. Because the very next caller arrives sounding just as confident and just as eager to defend Trump. And once again, James O'Brien does something very simple. He asks a straightforward question. A question that, in theory, should be incredibly easy for any supporter to answer. Let's see how that goes.
Well, you're also portraying that.
So let's go back to the lies, Stephen. Let's go back to the lies that the mainstream media in America has told about Donald Trump.
Well, I've just told you the fact that he's racist.
But we've just proved that he is.
But because he's questioned someone's birth certificate, that makes him racist.
No, because he questioned a black man's birth certificate, knowing that it was absolutely untrue. So that would be called a racist lie, which is encouraged to make people who are uncomfortable with Barack Obama's skin colour believe something that's not true about him, because it then undermines the legitimacy of his presidency. So, briefly, because, it's not going great, but I'd like you to stick around for a little bit longer. What is it you liked about him, Stephen?
I think that he come out and spoke a lot of the truth on stuff.
Yeah, what stuff? Stephen's hung up.
Morning, James. Cards on the table, Brexit here, loving Trump's work, and...
What's your favourite bit?
Well, all of it, but I think what you...
No, your favourite bit. What's the thing he's done that you love the most?
You said you bumped into Boris yourself.
Go on, mate. I just asked you a question. You said cards on the table. You said cards on the table, but you're not letting me look at your cards. That's an odd way of playing.
Because I want to just cut to the chase. Boris...
No, cards on the table. What's the thing Trump's done that you love the most?
Because he...
And that second call might be even more revealing than the first. The caller begins with this dramatic declaration, cards on the table. He proudly announces that he loves the work of Donald Trump and sounds completely confident about it. Cards on the table. It's a bold phrase. It implies certainty. It suggests the evidence is ready and waiting. So naturally, James O'Brien asks the most obvious follow-up question imaginable. All right then, what's your favorite thing Trump has done? Just one example. One card. But strangely, that's where things start to wobble. Because despite the confident opening, the caller can't actually name a single policy, a single decision, or a single achievement he admires. Not one. Instead, the answer drifts into something far more vague. Well, he says it how it is. And to be fair, that argument does resonate with a lot of people. For many supporters, Trump's appeal isn't about detailed policy analysis or legislative accomplishments. It's about style. It's about the perception that he speaks bluntly and challenges political norms. But when that becomes the only reason someone can give, the argument starts to look very thin. Because liking a politician's tone is one thing, but claiming to love their work usually implies you can point to, well, the work, a decision, a policy, a result. Yet every time O'Brien gently asks the caller to name one example, the answer slips away again. More vague statements. More dodging, more attempts to change the subject, and after several attempts, the caller eventually admits something remarkable. He says he's not really that familiar with American politics, which raises the obvious question. If you openly admit you don't follow American politics closely, how did you become so certain about your admiration for Trump's work? That moment says a lot.
Because he is a man of his word.
What's he done that you love the most?
Pardon?
What's he done that you love the most? You said, I'm loving his work. So what's the act of...
Because he's a politician who tends to, unlike here, do what he says.
Yeah, so what's he done? Well, what's the thing he's done? What's the act of work he's done?
I'm not in tune with the American politics.
Cards on the table, I love his work. Give me one example of the work that you love. Over to you, Alex.
Balls of steel. Okay?
No, but you're going to have to answer it before we carry on, because it's cards on the table, Alex. Those are your own words, mate.
Because he's very much like Boris. He's a cad, he's a rogue, he's always...
No, but we know all that. You said you love his work. You said cards on the table, I love his work. So show me one card. They're on the table, Alex.
What I'm trying to say to you is he's a politician, but he's not of the normal politician.
Cards on the table, Alex. Just show me one of those cards that you said in that really upbeat way. Cards on the table, James. I love his work. So show me one card.
James.
One card.
James.
One card.
Some people voted Brexit, others didn't. And
one card, Alex.
Carry on.
One card.
I'm not with you, James.
One card.
I'm not with you, James. I'm trying to just...
I love his work. Cards on the table. Give me one example of the work that you love.
So much work, because James...
So much work. So much work. It'll be really easy to give me one example.
No. Everybody in London voted for him, remember?
Nobody in London voted for Donald Trump. Give me one example of the work he's done that you love, Alex.
People voted for Boris, remember?
Cards on the table, Alex. Cards on the table, Alex. Show me a card.
I'm just not that in tune with American politics to give you a definite answer, but I'm trying to say to you, Boris,
so when you said cards on the table, what you meant was, I don't even know whether I'm playing Snap or poker.
No, I'm trying to say to you, Boris, you have to embrace what he is, and people voted for him right or wrong. He is a bit of a clown. He's everything you said he is, And I think he orchestrated this leakage. I think a friend of that recorded that. It was all done on purpose and construed to make a lot of media interest and chaos talking about Boris. And remember, when he went on the Mar show talking about Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, he inadvertently spilled the beans of his MI6, MI5 briefings straight out
see, no, he didn't know now. So, you see, not only have you made a complete cretin of yourself, you've also just libelled the Foreign Secretary.
Why not? Everyone else does.
No, mate. You see, cards on the table, Alex. You're a clown.
Call after call, the pattern looks the same. Big claims, strong opinions. But the moment someone asks for evidence, the argument starts to fall apart. It's a reminder that in politics, confidence and facts are not always the same thing. Let me know what you think. Which caller do you think struggled the most in this debate? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed the breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more moments like this.